California theme parks, stadiums, and other outdoor venues are being given the green light to reopen April 1st if they meet specific criteria. How close San Diego County is to meeting that. Governor Newsom signs a bill to get children back in the classroom, what the measure does and doesn't do to make that happen. And a local man capturing amazing moments for strangers in a story that's positively San Diego.
ABC 10 News at 4 starts now.
Going to a Padre game or SeaWorld could become a reality in less than a month. Good afternoon. I'm Kimberly Hunt. A couple of hours ago, the state announced outdoor stadiums can reopen at 20% capacity, theme parks at 15% capacity starting April 1st if the county in which they are located is in the red tier. Right now, San Diego County is in the purple tier, but there are hopes to move up in the coming weeks. Orange and LA counties are expected to move into the red tier next week, meaning Disneyland, Universal Studios, and Magic Mountain could reopen April 1st. Outdoor venues are limited to 100 people right now in the purple tier. California is setting aside a portion of the available vaccines for people living in certain zip codes hardest hit by the pandemic. ABC 10 News anchor Lindsay Pena explains how they'll make sure people don't cheat the system.
California's new plan to set aside 40% of available vaccines for those living in certain zip codes was welcome news to groups who've been trying to get more at-risk people vaccinated.
We're very hopeful that this will bring equity into the vaccine distribution and allow our communities to have access to the vaccine.
Roberto Alcantar with the Chicano Federation says the Latino population in San Diego was one of the hardest hit by COVID, but the vaccination rate has remained low.
After the first couple of weeks of vaccinations, only about 14% of the vaccines that were administered were going to the Latino community.
According to the plan, people living in about a dozen zip codes in San Diego County would be eligible for the designated vaccines. Those areas are ones that have low scores in the state's Healthy Places Index. It takes into account things like employment, access to health care, and education.
Dedicated vaccines and the technology to make the My Turn system work into those areas, we think will be a great benefit in our continued efforts to not only move fast, but move fair.
The system is based on zip code, and although Alcantar says they've already seen some instances of people trying to get vaccinated in areas outside of where they live, moving forward, they'll try to ensure the set-aside doses go to those they're intended for.
Now we have to really implement these safeguards and ensure that the folks living in those zip codes have access to the vaccine.
But he says there's also a fine line to walk.
You also don't want to ask for too much information that might make some folks uncomfortable, particularly folks, who are undocumented or have a mixed status family.
Lindsay Pena, ABC 10 News.
The Chicano Federation has staff dedicated to helping people figure out their vaccine eligibility. You can reach out to them directly at the number right there on your screen. San Diego celebrated its 1 millionth vaccine dose today. That includes both first and second doses, so fewer than 1 million people have been vaccinated so far. More than 608,000 San Diegans have gotten vaccinated, with 303,000 now having received both doses. The Del Mar Vaccine Superstation will close for a day tomorrow because of supply issues. It comes after the Petco Park site closed earlier this week. Other sites across the county are still open, and UCSD Health does not expect another closure at the Petco location. Could be a long weekend for senators finalizing the details of a $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill. Today, a last-ditch effort by progressives to add a federal minimum wage increase to the bill was killed. But there's now disagreement on how unemployment benefits will work. Plus, Republicans are vowing to slow down the process by introducing a stream of amendments.
Republicans have many ideas to improve the bill, many ideas. And we're about to vote on all kinds of amendments in the hopes that some of these ideas make it into the final product.
But Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says the Senate will stay in session until the bill is passed. It will then go back to the House for final approval. Democrats want it on the president's desk by March 14th, when federal unemployment benefits expire.
Efforts are expanding to educate the people most affected by COVID about vaccines. There's good news out there. There's a COVID-19 vaccine. Yay! But the bad news is, as black folks, it's hard to trust what's going on. So what do? Well, we turn to people we can trust. Black folks. But not just your uncle at the cookout. No. Actually, not him at all. I'm talking about black scientists, black doctors, and black nurses. Okay, first question.
Well, that's just part of a new video series created in part by the Kaiser Family Foundation and the Black Coalition Against COVID. The videos, called The Conversation Between Us, About Us, feature W. Kamau Bell and black healthcare providers talking about vaccines.
And so we're trying to increase people's access to be able to hear the voice of a trusted provider who looks just like them, who's from a community that they might live in or might recognize.
Data shows that Black Americans are more responsive to health messaging that comes from someone of the same race. About 1 in 5 don't have regular access to a provider. Now, while vaccination rates among Black and other communities of color are steadily improving, they are still far behind white Americans.
And so for people who are concerned, I say that's healthy. I understand that. And you should have your questions answered completely before you make the choice.
You can find more conversations with Black health professionals on the website betweenus.aboutus.org. The goal is to get people to share the videos with others on social media.
People who have been living at the convention center for the last year will be relocated. Today, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria announced plans to wind down Operation Shelter to Home. The convention center opened to the homeless last April as a safe, sanitary environment to protect them during the pandemic. But now Gloria says it's time to move forward.
In the 11 months of Operation Shelter to Home, we have served over 4,000 individuals and helped more than 1,200 of them find permanent homes.
Move out is slated to begin the week of March 22nd. Gloria says anyone who hasn't found housing will be safely relocated to another location within the city's shelter system.
The newsfeed starts with support for President Biden's COVID-19 response. A new AP NRC poll says 70% of Americans are supporting how Biden is handling the pandemic. Now, less Americans are supportive, though, of his handling of the economy. Only about 55% support him on that point. Texas and Mississippi are ripping the mask off and reopening 100%. Dr. Anthony Fauci not exactly on board with that. Fauci saying restrictions should not be eased until the amount of new COVID cases drops below 10,000 a day. We're currently at around 64,000 a day. Lawmakers in New York are calling for Governor Andrew Cuomo's impeachment. The New York Times is reporting that his top aides altered the amount of people killed by COVID-19 in nursing homes in a state health document report. Now, the Times says that New York only reported the amount of people who died in long-term care facilities, not those who got sick at the facilities and then died at the hospital.